Hello, family. In this episode, I want to talk to you guys about how I use podcasting to stay sober during COVID-19. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sober is Dope. I'm Pop Buchanan. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're continuing our talk on how I stayed sober through COVID-19 and staying sober through COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about how I use podcasting to cope and how I use podcasting to find direction and to find comfort and refuge during COVID-19. And this helped me to stay sober and to stay focused. The first podcast that I want to talk about that really helped me put things in perspective was the Model Health Show from Shawn Stevenson. This podcast is extremely amazing when it comes to everything health related, fitness related. Shawn Stevenson is the author of the book Sleep Smarter, and he's a really cool, gentle spirit. And he does a really great job of breaking down complex scientific things in really digestible, fun ways. And this helped me with my recovery because every time I listen to the Model Health Show, it reminds me of all the health benefits of staying sober, not drinking alcohol and doing drugs. The benefits to my mental health, the benefits to my overall well-being. So that's really helpful, and it keeps me motivated because I could be down, I could be a little depressed, I may be eating too much junk food, and as soon as you listen to the Model Health Show, it kind of snaps you right back into place. So that's my first podcast that I recommend for you guys to listen to. It helped me stay sober. It also helped me reach my health goals. So shout out to Shawn Stevenson and his crew over there with his beautiful wife and kids and the whole team at the Model Health Show. Definitely get his book, Sleep Smarter. The second podcast that helped me to stay sober through COVID-19 is the Tim Ferris Show. Tim Ferris is the author of The 4-Hour Work Week, The 4-Hour Chef, and The 4-Hour Body, and Tools for Titans. Tim Ferris has definitely been one of my motivators from the beginning of my recovery journey. He's a brilliant guy, born in Long Island, Princeton grad. You know, we have a lot in common, and, you know, he's into wrestling, martial arts, and he's one of the brains and minds behind Facebook and one of the investors behind Uber. He's just brilliant. And the Tim Ferris Show pretty much breaks down world-class performers and their process and their routines, and he brings that information to us. So how this helped me, it keeps me ahead of the game. These are titans, right? He may interview someone like Tony Robbins and talk to him about what is it like being a world-class motivator. And by watching or hearing this, it motivates me to want to do more. He interviews all of the top performers in the world. Ray Dalio, he interviews Jamie Foxx. You're going to get the best of the best listening to the Tim Ferris Show. It's an excellent place to go to find direction, and definitely get his books. The 4-Hour Body is one of the first books that helped me put my health back in perspective when I was going through a pre-diabetic scare about 3 or 4 years ago. I was really afraid, and in my recovery from alcohol, I wasn't necessarily eating well, and that led into kind of almost having health problems with my blood sugar. But reading the 4-Hour Body really put things in perspective on my relationship with sugar, glucose, and stuff like that. The last podcast that I want to talk about that really helped me put things in perspective with my recovery is the Recover Yourself podcast with MartinJon Garcia. And I really love this podcast because MartinJon has about 19 years of sobriety, and he's just really asks a really good question. We are recovering from alcohol or drugs, but what are we recovering to? And just thinking about what I'm recovering to helped me so much keep things in perspective, because in being successful in recovery, you have to remember the darkness. So why I'm not drinking during COVID or using it as an excuse to relapse is because I remember how toxic it made me feel, how damaging it made, how much damage it created, and how it affected my life in such a negative way. So when you remember the darkness, it's really hard to go back to that, and that's one of the tricks. how I stay sober through COVID-19 is really remembering the darkness. And that's very important so we don't get, disillusioned with the idea of drinking and playing around and flirting with that type of danger. And that's exactly what it is. It's a false promise. So if you're out there and you're struggling, really just keep things in perspective, and listening to the Recover Yourself podcast from MartinJon Garcia definitely helps me, because he talks to so many different people in recovery. I also later on had the honor of being on this podcast, and I'm gonna put the link to the show notes, but definitely check that out. So if you want to get motivation on your recovery journey, ladies and gentlemen, definitely use podcasts as a tool. And don't forget, the Sober is Dope is my podcast, our podcast here, and we have about 200 plus episodes, and I'm sure there's people out there who could attest how the Sober is Dope podcast helped them stay sober. But me being a host of the Sober is Dope podcast and bringing that information to you guys and being of service, that's the ultimate thing that helped me to stay sober. Because getting up every day, having something to do, and having a community to help, and using my story as a catalyst for healing and change and transformation in your lives has been one of the things that definitely kept me grounded in my recovery. So I want to thank everyone who's been participating with the Sober Dope experience. Thank you for joining the podcast. Thank you for being part of this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my tips on how to stay sober during COVID. Don't forget to check our next video. This video right here is going to really help put things in perspective for you guys, and also check out the playlist. I'll catch you guys on the other side, and remember, stay sober through COVID is the best thing you could do for your mental health and your life. Peace.